Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Наші
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 788 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And another Russian ship today has been upgraded to a submarine, and they're calling it the Kommuna. And welcome back.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine and the major news of the only salvage and recovery vessel in the Russian Black Sea Fleet sinking to the bottom of the sea, meaning that there will be no ships around to recover or salvage that one. That's for sure. We've also been able to hear other major breaking news today as well, as Russian forces in the Nagorno-Karabakh region may be moving into the area of Ukraine to join the Ukrainian war effort on the side of Russia. We've also heard that Putin was just not too long ago rushed back to the Kremlin in pretty much a race by his motorcade, which is incredibly interesting. We've also gotten information that there's more heavy flooding occurring throughout the rest of the Russian Federation, and not only that, we've also seen that the Russians are so desperate for equipment, they are starting to scrape up literal scrap vehicles to try and get them into the war effort. There is a load of news to cover tonight, a lot of it. But before we get into that, I do have to make a quick shout out that tonight is the Sunday night fundraiser, a Lee Spring Army tradition and a tradition of this channel. Tonight's fundraiser is an incredible one. Revive Soldiers of Ukraine. It is a nonprofit that's been operating out of the Bucha Hospital Irpin area since years ago and has helped out with amazing things, such as helping Ukrainian soldiers who have been seriously wounded getting back into action. Many of those videos that we've seen before of Ukrainian soldiers who are amputees but have been rehabilitated from their injuries and have re-entered the Ukrainian armed forces, a decent amount of those guys actually end up getting a lot of the rehabilitation and really life-saving services provided to them by Revive Soldiers of Ukraine. An amazing thing and an incredible thing to know that we can contribute to helping them out and helping out the Ukrainian soldiery through the support that we give on this fundraiser tonight. The goal is set at $3,000 and we've already hit $600. I know that we can hit $3,000. I'm fairly certain of it, and hopefully the Lee Spring Army will never miss a goal, because we never have so far, and I don't think we ever will. But with that, we are now going to be moving on from that little update on the Sunday fundraiser and what Sunday fundraiser it is, and it's time for us to move on into the major news of the day, because we were able to get video footage out of Sevastopol showing that the Kommuna had been hit incredibly hard. Here is our first indicator that the Kommuna had been hit. Here's the video. Right over there, you can actually see the superstructure of the Kommuna, and you can see part of it is on fire, showing that the vessel has in fact been hit.
Вот только что мимо нас сылек. 200 метров, ракета ебала в пароход. Вон, видишь, горит.
See the cameraman talking and looking around as the ship continues to burn.
У нас всех. Вот такая вот херня, вот так мы работаем. Прикинь. Вот только что сейчас, блядь, как долбануло, блядь, прям рядом с нами. А вот Ванек, который...
We now see them looking straight into the face of someone right here. We got to see their eye. It's the eye of the future. And Matthew, what is that? What is the eye of the future telling us today?
That guy looks like that guy who had his comrade like exploded like over in the distance. Oh, blyat. He has that look on his face.
Vadim! Budoosh! Oh, blyat. But beyond that, that guy kind of does look like But beyond that, the Kommuna was hit and hit pretty hard. We were able to see the vessel here, by the way, just to put this out. This vessel was built the year the Titanic sank in 1912. So it is quite old. It was 112 years old as of this year, and it appears that it won't be getting any older. Moving on from this little picture that is once again highlighting that part of the superstructure we saw in the last clip, we can also see a very limited breakdown here on how the vessel works, or at least the breakdown of how the ship looks, or at least how it operates. It is actually a catamaran, meaning that it has two separate hulls, and these two separate hulls are split down the middle, which you can see right there, so that way this thing can use this heavy superstructure that it has above that to use for cranes, lifting operations, and the like, which allows it to be able to conduct salvage operations and also recover submarines and other vessels from the ocean floor that otherwise would be inaccessible. This ship has actually been used a little bit so far in the Russian-Ukrainian war. Like, for example, we understand that the Kommuna was actually sent out into the area of the wreck of the Moskva to recover some of the missiles and also other kinds of munitions that were on board that ship, although recovery of other equipment on board the vessel was highly unlikely or next to impossible to conduct. This ship does have a massive strategic value to the Russian Black Sea Fleet, especially considering the high amount of losses they take on an average every year in the war. They have to be able to have a salvage and recovery vessel to try and mitigate those losses as best they can, or at least recover some valuable equipment off of these ships whenever they can. But that will no longer be the case, as this ship has been hit seriously, and from what we understand, it has been knocked out of action, most likely joining the submarine fleet that it was helping out in salvaging just months earlier, or really just days earlier. Moving on from that, and on into our next little bit of news on the vessel, we also got to see some additional information showing the possible damage that was caused to the Kommuna. We can actually see right here what appears to be the field of view that was made by the camera person, showing possibly what naval mooring the Kommuna was at when it was hit, and we can actually find that. I believe that is on the northern side of Sevastopol Harbor, if I'm correct, and there should be some grain silos somewhere around there for us to see, and then that will let us know. Actually, it's right here. So they're saying that the camera person in that field of view right here was actually looking down this part of the harbor, which appears to be likely. We can actually see one of those almost like floating ships right there, Matthew, if you know what I'm talking about, the ones that have like the air cushion that they travel on. They're one of the fastest ships in the Black Sea Fleet. We can see one of them right there, and we can also see two Project 22 160s when this satellite picture was taken, and also what appears to possibly be a Grigorovich class, possibly, but nevertheless, it does seem that this was the location where the vessel was hit, and then moving on from that, we were able to then see as well the Kommuna right down here at this part of the harbor, at least in that satellite picture that was taken incredibly recently. What we're looking at here is actually this area of the harbor, and you can actually see that there are still a few combat vessels of the Black Sea Fleet that are here. The Bora classes, which are the ones I was just talking about that was right here, are actually both at the port of Sevastopol, but the Kommuna was right down there, and this is once again confirming that that field of view and that geolocation is correct. We don't really know what kind of missile the Ukrainians struck the vessel with, but from what we understand, a missile did go flying into the harbor, hit the ship, and caused it to spontaneously combust and catch on fire. We then got a little
Also, by the way, a little fun fact real quick. I did see some folks in the chat bringing it up. The guy who allegedly filmed this video right here that we looked at just a moment ago, I saw some reports that he had gotten arrested for taking this video. I didn't see any confirmation about it, but it seems probably that he got arrested for taking the video, which tells you a lot about how the Russians feel about filming their ships being turned into submarines. Not too positive about that.
Man, the Russians be like, he's a free country, you know, unlike the wicked West where you get destroyed for having free speech. Wait a minute, he filmed the boat burning. Arrest that man. Put him in the gulag, blade. But beyond that, this is a second video. This is our backup video, just in case the other one was deleted. We have two sources most of the times for the major video clips, but once again showing the fire that happened on the Kommuna. Still, once again, I gotta say, this is impressive to see that the Ukrainians were once again able to knock out such an important ship to the Russian Black Sea Fleet. And a lot of people are going to go, because, you know, this is how Russian propagandists work, oh, it wasn't that important. This was a 112-year-old ship. It wasn't a combat vessel. It was an old ship. They put reserve crews on it. None of that matters, because the thing that matters the most about that ship is that that's the one they send out to recover the wrecks of these ships, the actual combat ships that ended up going down because of Ukrainian fire. So going off of that, this is a serious loss for the Russian Black Sea Fleet, and I have a feeling that they're going to be seriously feeling the loss even greater of each vessel that is sunk from this point forward than they have in the past. Some people have been complaining that the ship is a 112-year-old vessel, and therefore it was really not a combat vessel or a part of the Black Sea Fleet. It was more of a floating historical site, and to that, I have to say, if the Russians wanted it to be a site of cultural heritage or something like that, then they shouldn't have had it in the active roster of the Black Sea Fleet so it could be targeted and destroyed. If anything is in the active roster of an armed force, it is a target because it's a weapon of war and being used to further a war or a conflict. So going off of that, very nice to see that the ship went down, and also incredible to see that the fundraiser has made it up to nearly $1,500, which is half of the goal we have tonight. And I know that the Lee Spring Army is going to be hitting that $3,000 goal here soon. And it's amazing to see.
Without a doubt. I mean, I'm seeing some big donations coming tonight, too. I'm seeing like several 100s coming in, like some heavy hitters.
Man, the heavy hitters, man, they are coming in with the entire Louisville Slugger, and they're absolutely busting teeth out. But moving on from that and out of the port of Sevastopol, we were able to get some additional information that things ain't going well at all for the Russians way off in eastern Russia. And I'm going to take you all the way over here into this oblast, which I completely forgot the name of. But it's an interesting oblast, I'll say that. But before we do, I do have to make sure to circle back around because there's something that I had to touch on a little bit about the Kommuna. Because as we all know, it's just a little bit of it's a community thing to talk about the Kommuna, considering it's such a Kommuna vessel. But nevertheless, let me try and get a picture of this. Here is the Kommuna again. Also, nice boat up there, man. They got that little boat going back there at the back.
Like the A-10 like livery put on the little canoe.
Man, they canoeing around, they canoodling, but I'll tell you one thing, they ain't canoodling, the Kommuna, damn it. But beyond that, a lot of people have been talking about this ship and the loss of the vessel as of today, and some people are saying that they have some interesting thoughts on this. They thought it was a victory and the ship was a bunch of junk, or they thought it's a victory but unfortunate that such a historical vessel was lost to the ebbs and flows of war. Some people are saying they just don't give a damn about the ship and it should have been blown up earlier just because they hate it. But beyond that, there's a lot of questions, a lot of statements to be had, a lot of statements to be made about a ship like this, because you have to remember, this ship is old. It is incredibly old. This ship was around for World War I. It was then around for World War II. It was then around for, it was almost around for World War III, but now it will not be, but it was around through the entire Cold War. This thing has seen really the past 100 years, really more than 100 years, of modern history pass under its bow, which is a pretty impressive thing. Usually most ships do not have such a long service record because they usually get old. But the Russians being the Russians, or the Soviet Union being the Soviet Union, like to keep these old farts around and keep them where they can be seen. And a lot of people have been saying that maybe, just maybe, they shouldn't have destroyed it because it was such a historic vessel. But Matthew, what are people saying and what are you saying about it as well?
All right, so we asked the audience. We said, today, after Ukraine destroyed the 100-year-old Kommuna Russian rescue ship, what are your thoughts on the destruction of that ship? 44% said it's a victory and the ship was junk. 35% said it's a victory but unfortunate. And 15% said, I really don't care about the ship. And honestly, to me, I would say it's definitely a Ukrainian victory. To take out any vessel, especially one that's been around for this long, is a Ukrainian victory, and that Ukraine was celebrating quite a bit today about destroying this vessel. I will say, though, it is a bit unfortunate that due to the history of the vessel that it was knocked out, this ship did survive a ton of stuff in history to eventually get taken out during the Ukraine War, of all things, while it survived world wars, even at that. So it went through a lot. But at the same time, like I said in the short war video earlier today, it is a war and we can't get too sentimental. Because technically everything that gets destroyed in Ukraine and Russia are all historic in some way or another. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of war. People get killed and also historic buildings and also places get ravaged. That's just the unfortunate nature of war. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, me being a historical-minded person, it's a little unfortunate to hear, but in reality, I could care less. To be quite honest, I'd actually have to go with the group that said that I could care less about the ship. It is a Ukrainian victory, though, because on a strategic sense, this is actually a big loss for the Russians, as this ship would have been used to recover ammunition and other kinds of valuable items from wrecks of ships that would be sunk earlier on in the war, like the Moskva and the Project 22-160s that have been destroyed, among others. So this ship does have a massive strategic value to the Russian fleet, and its loss is a serious one. But at the same time, I can't feel that bad about a ship being lost, because I want everyone to think about a ship that is still selling today that is an icon, and it's not really around anymore, or it's in bad shape, or it's just been scrapped. Almost every single ship is within that margin. I mean, there's really no ships out there in the world that are this old. As DCC Prime throws in 150, dang! But
Dang, let's go!
Let's go!
2,000 raise. That's tremendous.
Man, tremendous even. Okay,
we're
we're back.
back.
Yeah, we're back. Said if people heard me sound like a cat or something. I don't know even what that noise was. But sorry for the lag attack, everyone. But anyways, let me move something over here to y'all, because this is one that I have to say is just so important to talk about. This ship right here. This is probably one of the most famous ships in the world, y'all. One of the most famous. And it's not around today. You know, it's a little bit of a tragedy. You know, well, it's actually 5 miles below the ocean surface, but beyond that, it is a little bit of a tragedy. A little. But the reality is, actually, it's like 2.5 miles or something like that. It's not 5 miles. But beyond that, you see, the Titanic didn't exist in the modern day, simply because it was just too expensive to maintain. And so they ran it into an iceberg. I'm just kidding. The real story is that it was maiden voyage, ran into an iceberg. Terrible, unfortunate, all that. But a lot of y'all are like, well, that was a stupid example, Enforcer. Could you give us one that is actually relevant? Yes, I can. I'm actually going to give you the sister ship, which is the RMS Olympic. Because unlike the Titanic, the RMS Olympic was almost identical. There are some differences in between the Titanic and the Olympic about the superstructure and all that stuff. And it's not really worth going into. They're practically the same ship of the same class. But nevertheless, the Olympic was pretty much the exact same as the Titanic. If anyone really cared about the Titanic enough, one could have preserved the Olympic and turned it into a floating hotel like the RMS Queen Mary is right now in Long Beach, California. One could have done that. But instead, the Olympic ended up being scrapped, I believe, in the 1930s, if I remember correctly. The reason being is that while ships can be great, and while ships can be historic, ships as a thing just aren't meant to last. I mean, especially because of their prohibitive cost, and not only that, ships just eventually wear down over time. There really is no way to maintain one forever and keep it in floating or running condition, because it's just next to impossible. That's why the HMS Victory, which is probably the oldest warship in the world. Well, I believe it is still the oldest warship in the world. It's not the oldest one afloat, but it's the oldest naval vessel still in commission. This thing has been put into a dry dock and currently has massive stilts pretty much holding it upright and also keeping the sides from bowing outwards, because vessels at this time in history, this is completely different from the Titanic and also the Kommuna, but vessels designed at this time, you can see the massive supports there, just were not meant to last forever. They just aren't. Either corrosion is going to get to the ship, which is highly likely, or you can try and get corrosion away from the ship and end up putting it up in a dry dock like this. But then the problem with putting it up in a dry dock like this is that the ship is actually designed to have the pressure of the sea pushing in on it on all sides, and that's how it keeps its form. And if it doesn't have that, ships eventually start to bow outwards and expand. And so then you have to put these massive beams in place to try and hold the ship kind of, you know, in peace. But then even still, there's some major issues involved there as well with the kind of stresses that the ship's undergoing then. That even applies to modern ships for the most part that are made of steel, like other ships that have been put in dry dock, smaller ones. But nevertheless, the point stands, ships aren't supposed to last forever. It's a miracle that this thing lasted 112 years. So as far as it being lost, I gotta say, that's really just the fate of all ships. All ships eventually end up either being scrapped or sinking, and very few of them are preserved as historic examples. So I'd have to say it's not really that much of a historical loss, more so of a strategic victory for Ukraine, and maybe slightly unfortunate, but not by that much, in my opinion. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And it's time for us to move on from the Kommuna and on into the far east of Russia. Because while the oldest warship went down today, it looks like Russia is taking the oldest BMPs and they're actually putting them back into service. These are some pictures that came out from the Amur region of Russia, showing them taking old BMPs that have literally rusted over and trying to refit them for modern military service. Here are some of them sitting in the tank graveyard. These are all BMP-1s that have literally been out there for so long. Some of them are just missing parts because they've been cannibalized for other BMPs. We can also see here that they are literally covered in rust. There's hardly a single speck of paint that exists on them anymore because they've been out here for decades, really about 40 years at this point. And then finally we can see them trying to refit these tanks, or more so APCs, and try and get them into modern day service. I gotta say that that's absolutely insane, and it's once again showing how bad off the Russian armed forces really are, considering that they're having to pull out old scrap, literal old scrap out of supply yards in the far east of Russia to try and be able to keep some armored personnel carriers in the armed forces. It's once again showing that the Russians will most likely run out of armor equipment by the end of this year, because this is truly a scraping the bottom of the barrel sort of a deal that we're seeing right here, with the Russians taking BMPs that are this derelict and refitting them for military service. They may as well be building them from scratch.
It really is. They're literally just bolting crap onto the side of it right here. It's like it doesn't even really match. It doesn't even look like it fits right, like on the side of that rust bucket. It's just junk they've like put together to try to like piece it together. But I think you're right though. I think this does indicate that they're having a huge, major weapon shortage, and if they're already having to do this to get ready for more losses of equipment by basically putting, oh my God, $1,000.
Yeah,
we hit goal.
We hit the goal. Hey, let's go.
Over the goal. Let's go.
Let's go, baby. I gotta say, that was unbelievable. Like, I literally looked over, Matthew, and I just like, that just blurted out. I was like, oh my God, because that was the biggest one of the night. Huge shout out to Brittany Taz, who threw in a $1,000 donation and just got the Lee Spring Army over the fundraiser goal. Absolutely unbelievable. And while the Lee Spring Army is continuing to dominate in the fundraisers, we can see that the Russians are certainly not dominating in the supply aspect. And that brings us right back to Matthew and what he was saying before I accidentally interrupted him because of that $1,000 donation. So go ahead, Matthew.
I was basically going to say that this does indicate they're having a huge equipment shortage, and they're not prepared to lose much more equipment. So I think the indications by the CIA and also the American analysts are accurate. I think they will run out of equipment by the end of 2024. And then now that Ukraine has been basically refunded through this aid package, they're going to be good for the rest of the year at least, in my opinion. So I think right now Russia should be in somewhat of a panic when it comes to planning out the rest of their year.
And I would have to say, I think they really are. I mean, You've got to think that at the beginning of the war, we knew that they were pulling stuff out of the supply yards, but it was stuff that was relatively usable looking. I mean, it didn't look that bad. It was bad, but it wasn't terrible. I mean, this is literally rusted over. They're not even trying to repaint it at the point. They're already putting armor slats on this thing and hoping to get this back into armed service here soon. That is a terrible state of affairs for the Russian Federation to be in, and it is once again showing me that we most likely can be counting on, very certainly, that the war in Ukraine will most likely come to an end by the end of this year. We'll be seeing if that is the case. Hopefully it is. But still, this is very interesting to see, and once again showing how bad off the Russians really are, at least on the military aspect. Meanwhile, Russian infrastructure is still having an impossible time dealing with the floodwaters that are now starting to dominate large swaths of the Russian frontier. This was actually filmed in the Tyumen region, and just to keep this in mind, the last major flood we heard about was the collapse of the Ural Dam up near Energetik, and ended up affecting the areas from Orsk to Orenburg and all the way into Kazakhstan in dozens of miles in every direction, creating a massive floodplain. The flood we're talking about isn't even close to this area. It's actually all the way up here at Tyumen. And Tyumen has a major river in it called the Tura River. I was about to say the Tula River. It's actually the Tura River, and from what we understand, it has broken the banks and has started to massively flood the region. We don't even know if the Russians have any dams in this area, but once again, it is showing that more cities have been submerged, and more industry in the far east of Russia has mostly been taken offline due to the surging floodwaters.
That's pretty nasty. It's looking like a hurricane hit.
I gotta tell you that Hurricane Katrina. But beyond that, this place is a little wet. Someone needs to get a mop out here.
Can you imagine what's in that water? Oh my God.
Oh, industrial waste most likely. Heavens. It's like, great heavens. Man, look at that crap that's on the water. Like, what is that?
Yikes.
That is not dirt. That is some kind of sludge.
That's what I even went and took the Slav squat, блядь.
Man, oh my God. They said he was very runny, блядь. He was the one who created the flood. But beyond that, here's another clip. Dude, these deer are kicking it. They're like, maybe we can get to Kazakhstan.
Man, those deer saw the the sludge, and they're like, hell no, I'm getting out of here.
Dude, they saw Vadim drop that Chernobyl level shit in the middle of Human, and they were like, we gotta go. They were like, get our passports, it's time to leave.
I can only imagine the amount of Russians that are gonna come down with like some horrible like bacteria or something like that from stepping in that water. But you know the Russians are not gonna stay out of the water because they just get in it and they don't care. And they're gonna have a widespread problem probably pretty soon.
Dude, you know some Russian man out there is going to get a fishing pole and go fishing in that water going, look, Blade, at least we can eat better. And he's going to pull out a fish that's got like 9 eyeballs, like just randomly across. He'll go, this is good. And then he'll eat it and get like an unknown disease or some crap from the fish. It's going to...
They're basically used to it at this point. They're like, it looks like the magic dust Chernobyl fish, bliat.
It looks like that Chelyabinsk fish. Very nice, I like it.
That's like the sacred fish to the Russians now. That irradiated and also E. coli fish.
Man, that E. coli sounds really good. What if I change it from E. coli to A. coli? And then it gets like a fever of 109 or such. Oh, I mean, that's some crazy floodwaters. And then we even have another video of it right here. This one's from above, which makes it even more interesting to see. I mean, just look at this. It's insane.
And where's all this water coming from again, just to be clear about that?
So it's coming from the annual melting of the snows in Siberia, and the rivers are starting to bring this water with them. Usually Russia has some sort of flood control measures in place, like on the Ural River at the dam that was just above Orenburg. Oh, actually not Orenburg, above Orks. But this year it appears that a lot of that is failing, and they're just dealing with really just unbelievable major floods throughout the entirety of the country. So it looks like
crazy. It's like that's all this water from that. That is a wild amount of water like flowing downhill like that.
I really is, man. You know, look at all that water. The aquatics would feel at home. But I mean, it's truly crazy. Places are turning into islands like this area on the left. But with that, that's the end of that little clip. And once again showing us that things just are not going well in the interior of Russia. And once again, infrastructure that is crippling is leading to heavy amounts of floods within the region. But moving on from that and out of the area, we were able to see that not long after that, Putin got rushed in his motorcade back to the Kremlin. This was at 11:10 p.m. on a Sunday. In the middle of the night. We don't know why he was being rushed back to the Kremlin, but here's the clip. Also, I want you to know this because this is a very important thing about Russian law, is that in Russia there are speed limits, but government officials do not have to follow the speed limits at all. It's literally written into the law that the law doesn't apply to them as far as speed limits and traffic regulations are concerned. They can run red lights, they can speed all they need to, and anyone that's a part of their motorcade can as well, because to follow the speed limit would not help them to be able to run the country and enforce the laws that everyone else has to follow. I'm not even kidding. That's the logic that they use to say that the Russian officials can break the speed limit all they want. So this is fairly normal to see a motorcade traveling at the speed. But here we go. Pretty wild considering that there's also a little film of water on the road that they just like, yeah, hell, speed. You know, it's like, that's fine. Go 100 miles an hour. It's all good. In a Sprinter van, too, of all things. Look at this. There's the actual limo. But then here's 2 Sprinter vans right behind that going about 100. I mean, that's a little crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's just unsafe. Inherently unsafe for everyone involved. But that's Russia for you. But beyond that, we don't really know what he was doing there, but it was a little quick rush that they made back to Moscow, and maybe we'll get some information or see what they were planning on doing here in the near future. It may have been that they were trying to figure out what to do with the Russian soldiers that are leaving Nagorno-Karabakh and trying to figure out if they're going to put them in the war in Ukraine or just let them go back into Russia proper. We're going to be muting the balalaika music. Man, that's the kind of music that Putin makes when he walks into the room. Actually, Lukashenko is this music.
Oh yeah, I'm going to go and invade Poland today.
Dude, that's exactly what he says. We're going to beat all of the collective West on our own with the 30 guys.
I still vote for the dog.
Man, he got that dog. He got that little fluffy
I
dog.
want that white fluffy in there.
Man, that little white fluffy's going to end up being some nice, delicious lo mein. You know what I mean?
Oh.
We see the BTR-80 still being moved out. And that's the end of the clip, but still showing that they're leaving Nagorno-Karabakh inside of Azerbaijan. Moving on from that, and out of Azerbaijan, it's time for us to move all the way over to America really quickly, to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We saw that an aircraft today, a part of the Ukrainian Air Force, ended up landing in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania today. That's very interesting. Why would they land at Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, of all places? Is there anything here to even want to land at? Is there anything at all? I mean, there's the Harrisburg International Airport, but what the hell are they doing here? And also, why in the world does Hershey Company have flight operations? That's a whole other question for a whole other time. But beyond that, we were able to see that the Wandering Patriot that ended up having half of the battery knocked out has had some of that battery that ended up being damaged returned to the United States for repairs to be effected. We can see that it was brought over, I think, in a smaller Antonov 124, and I'll show you all what that is. Because the Antonov 225 has ceased to exist. I think the Antonov 124s are the next biggest thing that Ukraine has available to them. And let me go get the ones in Ukrainian livery, so that way I can show you all hopefully the exact same one. Let's see here. Where the hell? I be dip. They don't have a picture of a Ukrainian one. That's a little weird, but that's fine. That's fine. We'll work with it. So here's an Antonov 124 of the Russian Air Force, or really just the Russian Federation. You can see it right here. And you can see that the paint job doesn't look that great on it, but nevertheless, it is 100% an Antonov 124. That is the exact aircraft that this Patriot is being unloaded out of, but this is a Ukrainian Antonov 124. Moving on from that, we did get to see that there was some damage that was caused to some of the Patriot systems. Unfortunately, I don't know which one this is. It actually looks like one of the generator trucks that would have been used, meaning that if the generators were knocked out, the entire battery may be offline until this was repaired, which could be a little concerning for the moment. But you can see a little bit of visible damage on different parts of this system that is a part of the Patriot battery. So overall, really interesting to see, and great to know that it's back in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, so that way repairs can be effected on it, and then it can be sent right back to Ukraine. Also, is Hershey's? Oh my God, Hershey's, Pennsylvania is right here. No way. I didn't know it was that close. Like to Harrisburg. I had no idea. Did you even know that, Matthew?
Yeah, how close is it to what now?
It's this close to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Hershey's, Pennsylvania is right there.
That's pretty cool. You know, like people plan vacations to go to Hershey Park.
Man, I've heard that also America's transportation excellence is a huge attraction in this area. Oh, this is like a legit museum. Oh, I was BSing about that.
Look at that Hershey's truck thing right there. You see that?
Dude, this is the Kith mobile. This is Mike Tyson's ride. He rides around going, hugs and kisses and almonds to all of you. But I got...
Packer.
Dude, it's a Tucker.
Or a Tucker, I mean, not a Packer. What am I talking about?
How cool. A Tucker 48. How neat. And then this is a, I don't know what that is. Like an older... It's not a Ford. I think it's a Rolls Royce even. I don't know. But still, really cool place. A complete rabbit hole. Completely sidetracked. But still, I didn't even know that Hershey's, Pennsylvania was that close to that airport. That is incredibly cool. So, you know, the Ukrainian crew, I'm just saying, they could have gone to Hershey and seen the Hershey's chocolate factory that's here. I believe there's one that's here. Or this is just a Hershey's bar. Actually, no, there is the factory right there. And then all the way down here, we got Lebanon. So you can also go to the Middle East all in one fell swoop. Nice. Love to see it. But with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little bit of news in the United States and right back to Ukraine, because there's still a lot going on there. And that moves us directly into our location unknowns. Starting off with our first one today, where we got to see that an AI system is helping out with the drones of the Ukrainian armed forces. Check this out. It makes the job of the pilots of these drones a lot easier as we hear that little nice sweet music. But we can see them finding the targets and tracking them. And just look at this stuff. Isn't that crazy? Tracking bad guys, absolute baddies.
Damn, now the Russians really won't have a chance.
Man, this thing sees you. It's getting you. Look at that. Tracking this car. Identifying it as a hostile target. Giving low passes. Look at this. And these guys are running just like a Russian would away from the drone.
Yeah, they're practicing. They said they run this like this, Bliat.
They said program this in. They run in circles. Man.
I'll just keep psyching them out. Like, just flying straight towards them. Then there's like, zoom off.
And look at that guy. He threw a stick. This guy's throwing like a laptop at it.
It's a platter.
Dude, he threw a literal silver platter at the drone. And now you can see it's coming in for the krill. Oh, look, there was the laptop or whatever the hell it was. But with that, that's the end of the clip. And really nice to see that they're still working on more advanced computer systems to help them with their targeting and destruction of Russian armed forces. Moving on from that and on to our next clip of Location Unknown News, we also got to see the Russian losses as well, which have been pretty sweet.
Oh, man, it went up from 3 to 8 Bobcats in a day. I'm loving it. I'm telling you what, I'm loving it. It's like almost like Ukraine got some aid package, it got some hope again, and started taking those Bobcats down like the poor bastards they are.
Man, a blessing from the Lord. And I gotta say, it's beautiful to see these kinds of numbers, not just in that category, but in every single category there is. 8 special equipment vehicles destroyed, 950 soldiers wounded and killed, 23 armored personnel carriers knocked out, 68 supply trucks and fuel trucks knocked out, 16 main battle tanks knocked out, 41 artillery pieces destroyed, 38 drones knocked out, 6 cruise missiles destroyed, 4 anti-aircraft warfare systems absolutely obliterated, smacked around, and beat senseless. And I gotta say that today was a very good day. And I have to say that hopefully this will once again be making the Russians believe that the war most likely will not be winnable. And it's not just a matter of believing, it's seeing. Seeing is believing, and they're most likely starting to figure that out, and most likely start to think about how in the world is this war going to end for them. But with that, we got to talk about why these losses are going to be increasing, because we've heard that the United States is going to start introducing more ATACMS here in the future. It's been a bit of a misnomer. Some people have believed that ATACMS have not been given to Ukraine before. We know that that's not true. They have had ATACMS, and we did get to see that they used a large amount of ATACMS against the Dzhankoy airfield just days ago. It's the matter that they didn't get a lot of them, and that's limited their ability on striking Russian targets behind the lines. It has been said that in the $61 billion of military aid that's going to end up being provided to Ukraine, some of that is going to be in the form of ATACMS missiles that are delivered to the Ukrainians. Some people think that ought to be the main priority. Some people are saying that the F-16s ought to get there instead, faster. And some people are saying that it works under the circumstances. A lot of people have many different inputs on that. And Matthew, what are you thinking? And what is everyone else thinking on top of that?
All right, so we asked the audience a question. We said the U.S. says that ATACMS will be among the first aid sent to Ukraine next week, and should this be the priority? 75% said yes, ATACMS are a main priority, and only 11% said no, get the F-16s there now instead, and 6% said, it works under the circumstances. And for me, I will say that ATACMS should be a main priority over the F-16s, because there is a little bit more complication around getting the fighter jets to Ukraine than compared to the ATACMS missiles. The F-16s obviously have to have fighter pilots, which are trained for them. There also has to be equipment in place. The runways have to be right. And while the F-16s are important, the ATACMS can get there next week, and we should not hold that up whatsoever, waiting for something else to arrive instead. So I'm with the 75%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, in my honest opinion, I would actually have to say that I think air defense is the #1 priority for Ukraine at the moment. ATACMS can wait for a little bit. The front lines are holding, which is really all they need to do at the moment. Air defense would be so much more important to get there on such a faster timetable than ATACMS, because right now the Ukrainians need to prioritize the defense of the airspace more so than they need to prioritize the ability for the Ukrainians to conduct decisive blows to Russian forces on the battlefield. Because while they may be conducting decisive strikes on Russians in the battlefields of Ukraine, the Russians right now, due to a lack of air defense munitions for Ukraine, are dealing decisive blows to Ukrainian critical infrastructure on a daily and weekly basis at this point. And the faster that can be corrected and fixed, the better off the Ukrainians will be. So I would have to say that air defense should certainly be the priority, and the ATACMS should come later at the moment. That's my opinion. But with that, I hope that does address that the best we can. And before we move on, we have to make sure to recognize some of those top donors of the stream tonight, because many people have had an amazing part in helping this fundraiser get up to a whopping 3,000, and let me make sure that this is the exact correct number. It's got to be correct. On the dot, I'm telling you. $3,567 raised so far on this fundraiser, which is absolutely unbelievable. Matthew, who are the top donors who made that possible tonight?
All right, so we have quite a long list here, and the biggest donation of the night was from Brittany Taz, who threw in that $1,000 donation. Absolutely massive support indeed, Brittany, and thank you very much for being the largest donor of the night, and that is very generous. We also had a 150 from DCC Prime 1, and then we had a 100 from some guy called the Enforcer. And we had a 100 from Greg Carrier, Hal Rose, BC Skyman, Gene Kustra, Tom S., and then we had a 50 from Axel K., Matt Cheer, Richard Hawkins, Dan G., and then Panama Floyd, Randy Tosto, Mike Smith, and also Dad Good. And they have all brought us up to $3,567 raised on the fundraiser, including all the ones we were not able to call off, which were also quite a few. And huge shout out to everyone once again. We have never missed a fundraising goal in the history of the channel, and tonight is no exception, thanks to all of you. So once again, thank you all for the generosity, and Enforcer, what say you?
And I would have to say thank you to everyone we were able to call out and not call out for helping this fundraiser to get to where it is tonight. Many channels, many groups, many communities have pottered out completely on giving support to Ukraine because this war has been going on for so long. It's almost been going on for 800 days now, which is unbelievable. And what's really crazy about that is that here in the next 365 days, and let me make sure that I'm correct on this, here in the next 365 days, so let's 730 plus 365, it's going to be 1,095 days that the war will have gone on if it goes on into a fourth year, which is absolutely crazy to think. And it's even crazier to think that for 800 entire days, the Lee Spring Army has been here almost daily, continuing to support Ukraine and help them out in their war effort every way that we can. This community has gone above and beyond, and while these fundraisers have been getting a little bit smaller over time, no one expected that the Lee Spring Army would persevere for this long and do so much good helping out in Ukraine and helping to support Western interests around the world. I have to say that to the people that we were able to shout out, thank you all so much for y'all's unbelievable, massive donations to the fundraiser tonight, and to all the people that we weren't able to call out that weren't the top donors of the night. Thank you all for being the numerous and countless members of the Lee Spring Army who continue to keep our primary goal of supporting Western interests around the globe at heart and continue to help out the best way we can, which is through these YouTube fundraisers. It means a great deal to us, and I can't say enough how proud I am once again of the Lee Spring Army to pass this fundraiser goal and to continue to help out Western interests inside of Ukraine, inside of Israel, inside Taiwan, and wherever that help may be needed. And so with that, thank you so much to each and every one of y'all. I hope that does address that the best we can. And with that, I believe, Matthew, we got a couple of questions from the chat that people have been wondering about. What do we got?
All right, and also just to shout out once again, tonight we have no super chats. It's only donations to the fundraiser only, so that means I need live chat questions. So if you have one for us, put @Enforcer Matt in the chat, and then your live chat question behind it so I can add it to my spreadsheet, and there's a good chance we can read most of them off before we end the stream tonight. But with that being said, we're jumping into our first one, and it goes to Silent Operator, who says, can the Kommuna be salvaged itself?
The Kommuna could possibly be salvaged, but it would probably require Russian naval efforts from other fleets, and at the moment, none of those fleets can enter the Black Sea because the Bosphorus and Dardanelles are shut off to the Russian Navy. So if it was to be recovered, it would probably be recovered years after the war was over, and most likely by the time the Russians had most likely been given a strategic defeat inside of Ukraine. We don't really know how they would recover it, what kind of ships or equipment would be used, and so I would have to say that in my honest opinion, it most likely will not be recovered until many years later. It may not be recovered at all. It may just be left to sit where it's burning at the moment. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next question is going to go to Bruce Lee, who says, how many Bayraktars can $60 billion buy?
A lot of them. Like a load of them. Like, let me go pull it up. How much is a TB2 Bayraktar? Let's see. Priced under 2 million. they're priced under $2 million each. So let me go to the online calculator here, and let me go put in $60 billion and then divide that by 1.9 million. So $61 billion. Billion dollars. So we got 61 million right there. And let's see here. So let's see. That would be, yep. And then divided by 2 million. There we go. We'll go with 2 million. So you could buy 30,500 TB2 by Rockdar drones for $61 billion if you were just to use all of it buying the drones. And so I hope that does answer that fairly well, because that's a lot of drones right there. You can probably do a lot of damage with 30,500 by Rockdars. And I think that the Ukrainians might be eyeballing that kind of an idea if they actually had the cash. But funnily enough, the military will figure out, the U.S. military will figure out what the Ukrainians need and send it to them, instead of the Ukrainians kind of getting to find out or pick what they want. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, Bruce Lee. Really good question, though. And with that, we are on to the final question of this segment, and then we're going to be moving right back into the Ukraine frontline news.
And this one is going to go to Fabian, who says, what's happening in the Israel war, and why is it so quiet right now? And from what, Jack?
What happened?
But what we're hearing in the Middle East right now is the tensions between Iran and also Israel are still high, but there have been no further strikes between those two countries directly on each other. But nonetheless, the tensions in the region are still rising, because now we're hearing that a group of Hezbollah fighters are now announcing they're going to start attacking U.S. bases once again after they haven't done that for months. So it's still really hot there right now. It's just not a whole lot of headline news going on about it, but certainly not dying down. But Enforcer, what say you?
There was a good amount that went on today alone inside the Middle East. We are hearing that the Iranians are saying that they are going to be supporting their proxy groups and attacks against Israel and the United States in the area. We've also heard the Israelis not really making a lot of comments, which shows that they're most likely having some sort of a plan put into place in the background. We do know that eventually the Iranians probably will end up responding directly again against Israel. It's just at the moment we don't know when that's going to be or how it's going to happen. We just know that it most likely will. It's almost an inevitable certainty at this point. We heard a possible scenario where a U.S. base was attacked today, although we didn't hear of any casualties or deaths at the moment at that military base. We have heard that it was possibly attacked by Hezbollah forces that were within the area of the northern Middle East. So at the moment, I hope that addresses all we have on the situation. It has died down a good bit compared to what people were thinking it would be. But once again, just remember that this conflict in between Israel and Iran is not your normal conventional war. It is a mass air attack war, because there's no way for the two countries to directly fight each other, so they really have to end up firing missiles at each other and bombing each other to really try and do any damage to one or the other. And so with that, I hope that covers every single base I can about the Middle East. But a very good question. We are keeping an eye on it here on this channel. I'm making sure to keep a tab and a focus on what's going on down there, so that way if anything does happen, we will be able to make sure to get here live and start reporting it as soon as we can. And so with that, we are now going to be moving on back into the Ukraine war news and up into the northeastern area, where we got to see that the Ukrainians were hitting the Russians today with a brand new high-speed drone that's able to fly at approximately, I think it's like 80 to 90 miles an hour. So here's the clip. Man, what an intro, the Erebus group. And here comes the drone, and we can see it's coming in pretty fast. Poof, dead on the back of that truck.
That was very cash money of them.
Man, I gotta tell you. And look at that Russian in the back. He's like, oh, bled, oh, suka, bled, pistiki the nahui. And then this thing went right in the tarpaulin cover and got him. We now see this drone flying over the foggy fields of Ukraine. And hello, Christopher Russell. To France. Hello to France. I hope you're all doing well. We see the drone flying around. From what we understand, this is the drone that we saw a couple of weeks ago that took off vertically and then tilted sideways and started to fly something like an airplane. And we see the drone now flying down a road, trying to see if there's any targets along the roadway that it could target and destroy. And it looks like it's found something. It's wobbling its way down into the tree line towards the vehicle. Ooh, dang, dude, that was actually pretty impressive. They were bobbing and weaving past some branches, and we saw that they got that vehicle. Now in the next clip, we can see that they're getting a loaf that pulled over on the side of the road. And I don't know what the hell that says. Dolly Digi. Digidu a Digimon. But with that, that's the end of that clip right there, and nice to see them using a brand new FPV drone. Moving on from that into the next clip, we also got to see a montage of the SBU hitting Russian forces throughout the country. We're going to be muting that. Oh, look at that. We had a little firework launch right there, Matthew. Look. Poof.
That's a spinner.
Man, that's Chris's mom right there. Don't you talk about that firework that way. Ooh! Oh! And we now see them continuing to hit more ground targets everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. Man, you know when the Ukrainians hit these trucks, Matthew, the Russians come out afterwards after some of them have survived, and then you go, "Aw, man, we are so back."
Oh man, they're so gone.
Aw, man. Aw, man. But we can see them continuing to hit Russian forces all over the place. The SBU is doing an incredible job. Great work. This was going to drop an RPG-7 right on the roof. Right there. Look at that. And a second one, just for good measure. And a third one, just to make sure. Look at that SPG. They're going to knock it out. That looks like it missed a S to me, but actually it was a miss to B. B. We can now see them hitting another position of the Russian forces. And that's the end of the clip. But they're doing incredibly well. I mean, they're doing great. They're doing incredible stuff. But with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip and a little bit further down the line and towards Zalaman, where we got to see that they were hitting an ATGM crew today. I can't say the name of the ATGM for reasons, but I can say that the ATGM was knocked out. Here's the clip. Boom, they fired it. We're going to call that the Concour's little cousin. We now see them trying to reload the system, it appears. But they're not going to get that chance. That's not going to go that easy. We can actually see the pile of ammunition that they have lying next to the ATGM, and they're about to drop a bomblet on it. There it goes. Spotlight on. Action rolling. Russians whining. And we now see the ATGM burning, and we see one Russian run up. He's going, oh, bled, suka bled. Look at him. He's trying to kick it out. Oh, bled. And now he's running away.
Oh, he's going to catch on fire. He almost caught his foot on fire.
And now they're running away. Oh, bled. Oh, suka bled. Пиздики да нахуй, bled. Oh, пиздик. Oh, and now they caught something on fire. I don't know what that was. Lighter fluid or something? And we now see another drone flying in. Oh, hitting dead onto the ATGM, knocking it on out. Man, and that thing is done for. It's cooking marvelously, even. And with that, that's the end of that clip. But just nice to see that the 2nd Battalion of the 30th Mechanized Brigade was able to conduct such work and such actions today. Meanwhile, we got to see that Denis Prokopenko, the commander of the Azov Assault Brigade of the Ukrainian National Guard, visited the positions of the 2nd Battalion near Kommuna in Luhansk. There he is, right up here in the top right. Here he is, giving out unit citations. Here he is, once again, giving out unit citations as well. Now that that's done with, what kind of AR does this guy have?
Could be a Daniel.
It looks like it has a monolithic upper. That's for sure, because I can see right there the little two lugs. I would call them. I don't know if that's the correct name, but the two lugs where you could pop them out and replace the barrel quite easily. Maybe it is a Daniel. But I got to say, that optic there, not a big fan. I don't like that optic. So, you know, But
I
still.
can't tell what kind of optic that is. It's too dark. I can't see the photo that good.
Also, why in the world does this guy right here look like he's getting a mugshot?
Yeah, he looks like being held hostage a little bit.
Everyone else is just kind of like meh, or like kind of smiling a little bit, and then this guy looks like he just got arrested on like aggravated robbery or something like that. It's like, what? Why in the world do you look like that, bud? It's like smile a little. But anyways, that's the
The
end
guy
of
in
the.
the background was like panicking looking too. Do you see him in the back in the right corner?
No, I didn't. Wait, hang on. Let me go look.
Go back and look. He's in the back right corner. He was panicking over
This
there.
one?
Look at him. Yeah, he's looking a little worried.
Also, what's happening to this guy back there? Aw, man.
Yeah. Oh man, don't cop a feel.
Anyways, just getting a crack out of some of the facial expressions, because Leslie, some people were caught off guard a little bit by the picture being snapped. We're now going to be moving on down into the area of Chasiv Yar, where we got to hear, according to Oleksandr Syrskyi, that he believes that the Russians are planning on taking Chasiv Yar before the 9th of May, which is Victory Day, inside of Russia. I would have to say, I don't really know, but that's what they're saying at the moment, so keep that in mind. This will most likely be an active battlefield on towards the times leading up to May. Although I will say, taking Chasiv Yar by the 9th of May is going to be really tough, because that's only about 2.5 weeks away, and with the given Russian progress, and also considering that they have to jump a canal right before they get into Chasiv Yar, I'm highly doubting that they would be able to do any of that before May 9th, even if they are moving forward. But moving on from that, we also got to see an Su-27 firing an AGM-88 harm today. Yeah! And we can see them fire the harm and then turn the heart over.
Is going to cause some harm down range, I guess you could say.
Matthew, genius. Genius, Matthew. I love
That's
it.
so good.
Hey, is that Tom and Jerry?
Hey, man, why has Jerry got such a bulbous head on that cartoon?
Man, that's like a mix in between the cat and the rat. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the two put
Yeah.
together.
It's like the cat, the rat, and also that dog that was on the show too. Like they added like some facial features of that bulldog to his face.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. This is the thing. Like, this is literally the thing. Like, it's all of them put together. And it's got that R-73. Interesting pickup missile. But anyways, neat to see, and great to know that they're using the Ukrainian Air Force in higher numbers. But moving on from that, we now heard that the Warner Brothers copyright attorneys are currently spooling up the jets, and they're going to end up shooting that guy down for copyright infringement. But moving on from that and down into the area of Avdiivka, we were also able to see that the Russians were cooking. Let him cook. We're not letting
The
that
Russians
music
always
go.
cook with gas.
Aw,
Not
man.
that gas.
They got that gas. Aw, man, we are so back. Aw, man. But man, that tank is really cooking. It's actually like cooking like a charcoal. Look at that. It's like a flare, even.
Also, by the way, just a side note while I was thinking about it, when you did that imitation just then, has anybody wondered how the guy's affording the penthouse suite apartment and like the high end one like that? Has anybody wondered that?
You know, that's a good question. It's either grifting or it's I can't. it's one or the other. It's one of the two. But with that,
That could be right.
moving on to Ubanske, we were able to see an AS-90 moving around behind the front lines in the 3rd Brigade. Here's the clip. But I'm going to be unmuting that. You have to appreciate the sacrifices I make. I won't ever be able to take my vacations back to Ukraine because of how expensive this apartment is. Aw, man. But with that, that's the end of the clip. Nice to see the AS-90s doing their thing, moving around, doing their job. We love to see it. And it's time for us to move even further on down the line and into the area of Novomikhailivka, where we got to see the Russian forces getting hit down here by the 79th Brigade. Check it out. We are hearing the Souls of the Damned there in that music video, and we can see that there is some kind of electronic warfare system down there near that knocked out APC.
That one came in just a nice straight line, no zigzag, and it just came straight in.
Man, look at that. Oh, it's toasting. That thing is smoking, and they're dropping another one on top of it. Oh, blowing up the battery pack. Dang, that thing's like a Samsung. Like, look at that. That thing is blowing up. We can see that rev. They're about to blow it up. 5 minutes of silence ensues before the next comment's made. But we can see them hitting it.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, we lagged for like a solid 3 seconds.
No way. On a cap. I call cap. All right, I guess it is cap. we'll leave it at that. But
You don't say anything to call cap. You just like call. Oh, they called bomb.
Dude, I think they got a cap busted on them. You know what I mean? Like it looked like it. And what an outro here! Look at this. The animating.
Hey man, a large chunk of the budget for these units are going to these intros. Good lord.
Man, impressive even. I gotta say, I'm respecting it. I respect it. But moving on from Nova Mikhaylovka, just a little bit behind the lines, we also get to see a 2S3 Akitsia firing in support of the Russian, of the Ukrainian forces. Sorry, correction. But here's the clip. See them getting the artillery piece ready, screwing in that fuse, loading the piece. Oh, look, there's the Russians right there. Well, guess what? We're about to send those Russians away to Neverland. And boom, right there on the dot. They're going to Neverland. Here goes the next shot. Oh, look, those Russians wandering around in that field. Guess what? To the ranch you go. The boof, right there. To the ranch. All three of them went. And that's the end of the clip. It repeats again, but really nice to see that artillery piece in action in support of Ukrainian forces near to that area of the front line. Meanwhile, in the area of Krasna Poliana, we got to see that the Ukrainians are apparently dropping caltrops. Caltrops are an ancient kind of a weapon used by the Romans. They would throw these out onto the streets, so that way either they would get in the hooves of horses, or they would get in the foots of soldiers. These are incredibly interesting because the way that the caltrop is designed, a pointy end is always going to be sticking upwards, which is the neat feature about the caltrop. And let me make sure to show you all this right here. Oh, there we go. And that's the caltrop right there. That's what they look like. And no matter how you throw this thing, it will always land with one point facing upwards, meaning that it will puncture something, a foot, a tire, something along those lines. And in this form, they're actually intended to try and puncture the wheels of a car or a truck for that matter. And the Ukrainian drones are starting to drop these off behind the lines so that way they can cause punctures on Russian trucks and end up greatly increasing the amount of times that it takes for supply deliveries to make it to and from the front lines because the tires of these Russian trucks are continuously being deflated by these caltrops. So really cool, really neat. And also, let's see here. Texas police warn motorists of caltrops made of rebar in roadways. When the hell is that happening? Dude, Texas is a lawless land. But let's see here. What else do we have on caltrops?
Like India Mart is selling them for a little bit.
Preppers discount. Solid or hollow core. Dude, you know...
Why the hell do preppers need caltrops?
You know, just in case of the nuclear bombers are flying and we're at DEFCON 2 and everyone's going to die in 2 hours, I guess, you know, you can throw these out and just pray, maybe.
They'll be like, look, Cletus, the F-16s are flying over. Quick, throw out some caltrops. Throws them on the ground.
The aliens will never expect foot punctures. The aliens will never expect tetanus. Oh, tetanus, my beloved. But beyond that, anyways, we're going to be moving on for the whole caltrop thing. Still funny to see that they're actually doing this. We can also see that it's actually causing some pretty serious damage too, apparently. Busting out tires. We love to see it. But moving on from that and into our next little clip of news down near Huilopol, we also got to see that the Russians are apparently having some tough frontline conditions. I'll be making sure to read those subtitles for y'all, but sit back, relax, and listen to the Russians complain about their lives' woes. So here we are fighting. They F us, and we hold on. Wow, these guys are filthy. Today, they're effing all day long. Yesterday, they effed all day. And we can't do anything. Just a effing cannon fodder, damn it. They're hitting us with all their effing weapons, please. Whoa! Bad lag, everyone. That's terrible lag right there. We might even be off air. Oh, we're back.
We're back.
It was a small spike. It would soon stabilize. So we're going to go back a little bit and reread it. Okay, so. We can't do anything. Just a Evan fodder. They're hitting us with all their weapons, Bliet. This is called a fortress. Today, 19 people entered F and N. Show them our roof. Here's our roof, damn it. There are 0 left in 19. Everyone's effed. These guys were laying down and they just kept bombing them. Cluster munitions are effed up. Second day today, we're already tired of getting effed with cluster munitions. We didn't even make it there to our unit. We were going there 3 times with our comrade Major, damn it. 3 times we were just effed out there with cluster munitions. I think with the way these guys are talking, Matthew, these are the guys who ended up messing with the American guy who was over there, because they really have that ingrained in their heads, you know what I mean?
That's probably what's happening.
It's probably what's happening, man. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying. How many of us entered in? 10 effing people. No communication, no effing nothing. Only effing corpses around us. During effing drop-off in the zone, our BMP burned the F down. With all of our effing stuff, they effed it up right away. F it, let's go. Everything will be provided. No shovels to dig, no dry rashes, no water, no effing nothing. We're sitting here without water. We gather something to eat from the effing corpses. We're looting here. No eating, no effing, no drinking, no shitting. We got effing nothing.
He loves the word effing.
Yeah, man. Man, I feel like we're over there on Hot Dog Man's channel right now. Aw, man, those effing grifters. But if they weren't bombing right now, you could go out and film. Just go. They're lying along the forest line. Lying, and lying. It's all littered with effing corpses. All the Ukrainians are effing bombing and bombing. Now Bradley will come out and start effing up until the end. Smashing. Yeah, scary. Even the helicopters were effing today. And they have 2 effing mortars. That's effing it. Nothing else, damn it. From all the effing sides. Just, there's nothing left from the forest strip. Well, show it somehow. There's no need. It's effing behind you. Give it to me. I'll film it. There's no effing need. Let's sit quietly, guys. Just stick it out a bit. Here. Be careful. Yeah. Be effing careful.
Be careful.
Yeah, be effing careful. Look at that effing tree line. It's effing burned up. Effing blown to bits. Effing killing people. It buzzes from me. The effing trees. But beyond that's
subs by who? Who's the subs?
Subs by what? Wait a minute, hold up.
That's effing crazy.
Man, we got the Big Bob. we got the Big Bob down here. We got Big Czech Sausage Bob down here, putting in the subtitles. Mass respect to Big Bob. Big Bob be doing it real. But moving on from that, we got to see a Ukrainian SU-25 also firing some rockets. Oh, wow, that sounded like it was copyrighted. But we can see the SU-25 roaring across the lanes. By the way, this footage is sped up, just letting y'all know. Yeah, because no SU-25 is turning like that. No way in hell. But we can see them now tilting up, firing off them rockets. And then they're going to take that hard right and start popping those flares. You can see that right back there. And look at this guy. He's a champ. Look at him.
He's a pro. I like that helmet, too.
Man, that helmet do be kind of cool, though. Man, he's got anime characters on that thing. But anyways, with that, that's the end of that clip. Interesting to see and nice to know they're piloting the SU-25s and putting down the law. Meanwhile, we got to see the Ukrainians destroyed a TM-62 anti-tank mine. Check it out. There are some TM-62 anti-tank mines in a big pile. They're going to blow them up, and it's going to be pretty impressive to watch, so make sure to pay attention. I don't know why I said it like that. Y'all don't have to pay attention if you don't. Oh, my lord.
That just leveled it.
The music must have been doing something incredible right there because the edit was terrible. But anyways, slow, baby. Coleslaw. But that's the end of that clip. Nice to see. Once again, showing us what's really going on out there. What they really doing. What the dog doing with the butter on it. But beyond that, moving on to the area of Peremozhne, we got to see a 2S4 Tulpan was destroyed today as well by the Ukrainians. And the Russians filmed their own Tulpan burning. Some track links, sausage links. In the Czech Republic, we love pork too. Ever had sausages?
него попало, елки-палки. Надо садиться.
Man, that thing got cooked up. Well, that's the end of that clip. But they were toasting them for sure down there on the southern front today. And with that, it is now time for us to move on all the way up to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 788 of the war. And so, without further ado,
I wish you health.
no, we're not having that.
I wish you health, you fellow Ukrainian.
I wish you health, fellow Ukrainians. No, we're not having none of that. We're having the real speech.
Go back and give me a real speech. I don't want that high-pitched voice. I want speech.
And without further ado, here is the peach. Slava Ukraini!
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці і українки. Кілька головних речей за цей день. Щойно була доповідь головкома Сирського про найбільш гарячі точки фронту. Часів Яр та інші ключові напрямки на Донеччині, Покровський, Курахівський, також Харківщина, Куп'янський напрямок. Наші позиції, наші результати. Я дякую кожному солдату, кожному командиру, усім нашим бойовим підрозділам, які дійсно влучні та стійкі. Доповів сьогодні головком щодо ураження цілей на окупованій території, реалізовані операції та підготовка запланованих. Російська армія повинна нести втрати щодня, і кожен такий день російських втрат наближає для нас такий потрібний мир. Говорив також з міністром оборони Умєровим. І ключове – це ППО. Ми робимо все можливе, контактуємо з усіма можливими партнерами, щоб збільшити захист неба, збільшити кількість та якість систем ППО в руках наших воїнів. Кожен лідер і кожна країна, які у цьому допомагають, є справжніми рятівниками життя. І, звичайно, продовжуємо зараз наші контакти з американською стороною на всіх потрібних рівнях. Для нас дуже важливо тепер оперативне рішення Сенату на підтримку українського пакету. Тож і на рівні Офісу, на рівні наших дипломатів активно працюємо, щоб був позитив політичний у швидкому затвердженні пакету, а також і позитив в самому пакеті, його правильне наповнення саме тим, що так очікують наші воїни на фронті. Цей час між політичними рішеннями і реальними ураженнями ворога на фронті, між затвердженням пакету і силою наших хлопців, час має бути максимально коротким. І сила саме такою, яка дійсно може змінити ситуацію на передовій. Фронтове ППО потрібно так само, як і захист нашим містам і селам, наші далекобійні можливості, наша артилерія, наші можливості розширювати простір нашого контролю. Зараз кожен день важливий у комунікації. Хто так
Yeah, my boy, it's more lag. I have to not thank our internet provider for all the lag we're having. We have to get the lag fixed. I want the resolution passed in the U.S. House of Representatives, fixing the lag problem at Enforcer HQ. That would be very appreciative. Thank you so much. But beyond that, hopefully the lag is gone, and we'll rewind it 20 seconds so that way everyone can hear it. Okay, so we're going back to speech. Thank you.
Так само, як і захист нашим містам і селам, наші далекобійні можливості, наша артилерія, наші можливості розширювати простір нашого контролю. Зараз кожен день важливий у комунікації, у політиці, у логістиці. Я дякую усім нашим друзям в Сполучених Штатах, кожному нашому партнеру у світі, хто так само, як і ми в Україні, розуміє спільні можливості, спільні завдання. Всіма методами разом ми маємо зупиняти російський терор, обмежувати російський потенціал війни та примушувати Путіна визнати, очевидно, визнати, що ця війна нічого йому не дасть. Я дякую усім, хто з Україною та в Україні. Дякую усім, хто б'ється заради нашої держави і заради наших людей. Дякую усім, хто допомагає, усім, хто працює на українську силу і захищає життя. Слава Україні!
Героям
Героям слава.
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Zelensky, and I'm now going to be taking over as President Enforcer, and we're going to be continuing on for the rest of the night, talking to all of y'all and our great friends around the world about everything going on in the world. Oh, I can't do that anymore. That's really going to hurt my voice so bad. But beyond that, it is time for us to move on to the second segment of this stream, where we get to talk to all y'all about whatever y'all wish to talk about. What do y'all want to talk about? I'm very interested. I want to know. But nevertheless, I have been hearing some people talking about the United States sending some military advisors to Ukraine to help strategize the war effort. And a lot of people have been having thoughts about that. A lot of people say, yeah, the Ukrainians do need help because the summer offensive last year didn't go all too well. Some people are saying, nah, they don't need the help. They got it. They know what they're doing. And a whole bunch of people are saying all kinds of things, many different things about this. And Matthew, what are you thinking about it? And what is everyone else thinking about it?
All right, so we asked the audience the question. We said the U.S. is proposing to send 60 military advisors to Ukraine to help strategize war effort. Thoughts? Yeah, 47% said good idea. Ukraine needs strategic help. 22% said no good. It sounds like Vietnam 2.0, and with the eyeballs looking to the left. And 24% said if it's needed, then do it. And I will say that this does sort of ring back to that statements made during the prelude to the Vietnam situation when we sent military advisors over there. But I don't think that's the purpose of sending these advisors. Although 60 is quite a large number to send to the embassy. They're going to be camping out there all at the embassy apparently. But yeah, it's supposedly to help Ukraine strategize the war effort. I'm not really sure if they really need to be there in the embassy to do that. So there might be more to the story, but I'm going to go with the 47% and say it's a good idea because Ukraine does need the strategic help. Because to be honest with you, the U.S. has the superior strategy. Ukraine's strategy has worked somewhat, but I think they need to sort of yield to the Western strategy a little bit more. But Enforcer, what say you?
I think it'd be a good idea. I think we need to send them because I think that it would be great to see that the United States will be able to help out the Ukrainians in their actual strategizing and their war effort and see that the Ukrainians follow through with what would actually work for them more so than what they imagined to work, which last year in the summer offensive didn't necessarily work all too well. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, fairly well. And with that, it's time for us to get on into those questions proper. You know, those questions that people be questioning on. Really good questions. Great questions, as a matter of fact. And I have to say that they're unbelievable questions. But before we move on to that, I just want to share this with all of y'all. I just want to ask. I'm very interested. So when y'all go to, say, a place like Europe, do y'all ever, I don't know, look around at the architecture? And if so, what is your favorite kind of European architecture? Let me know in the chat. I don't know why in the world I want to know that tonight, but that's been a question that's been on my mind the entire time I've been running this news, is if y'all have a favorite form of European architecture, what kind is it? And of course, you can pick a national or a nationalist form of architecture, like Ukrainian architecture, and then go through the different eras of that if you want to. Like, literally any kind of architecture you want. You could go with British architecture, Tudor era, Victorian era. You could do the same thing with the Germans. You know, you could do whatever you want. But I'd be very interested to know what is everyone's favorite form of European architecture. Let me know in the chat, because I'm just very curious in that for no reason at all. But with that, Matthew, what is our first question?
All right, so our first one is going to be the Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight we had the whole roster. Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernier, Paul Schultz, Kevin J., Rumpelstiltskin, David Millsaps, and also Toxic Bananas. They said the Morse for tonight says from the LSA Signal Corps, Russia will only have the rubber ducks left in the bathtubs as ships in the Navy, and long live the LSA and the nice job, guys.
Hey, and that is the sound of money, and y'all got the dent on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night. Now I gotta congratulate y'all for getting that correct. That is the 788th day that y'all been getting that dead on the nail, and I gotta say that is incredible to hear that y'all have gotten that right again, and that is exactly correct. And so thank y'all so much once again for doing that. And before we move on into the next questions, Matthew, I'm seeing a lot of people throwing in different kinds of European architecture that they find interesting. I'm seeing that most of them like German architecture, specifically German Middle Age architecture. Are you noticing that, Matthew?
A little bit. I'm seeing people pretty much all over the place at this point. European, Greek, a little bit of everything.
I'm seeing a lot more German. And let's see here. Let me make sure to get a read off here, and I'll read off from close to the beginning. Roman. Never been out of the country. That's fair. Bilbao, Spain, I believe is how that's pronounced. And then someone said Victorian. Prague has the most beautiful architecture, so therefore classic. Well, really like middle-aged Bohemian architecture. Let's see. Let me see here. Eastern European, Swedish, cathedrals, Greek. If it ain't Baroque, don't fix it. So Baroque. Czech, again, cathedrals and castles. And that's not really an architectural thing. It's more of a structure. And there's many different ways castles and cathedrals can be built. Let's see. Prague or stuff from the Holy Roman Empire, so kind of German. Italian arch, the best. Greek or Spanish, German, Mayan, Goth. Oh, Mayan isn't even European. That's like Central or South American, I believe. Japanese.
What's that English architecture called? Is it literally just called English architecture, like what they have out in like the Cotswolds and like the historic areas like that?
That's actually, I believe that would fall under Georgian architecture, because there's a million different ways that English architecture exists. There's
Victorian?
Yeah, there's Victorian, there's Tudor, there's Georgian, there's modernism, postmodernism, brutalism. Those are really universal though. And then there's, let's see, there's a load of them, but I believe like
I like that architecture, like that Cotswolds like style architecture, and like out in the rural areas of England. I love that.
Like you're talking about this kind of architecture. This is explicitly Georgian style.
Oh, that's unique because Bath is like a unique place in England, like the architecture style and things like that. But the Cotswolds, though, is like traditional English.
Let's see, the Cotswolds. So we're out here in the Cotswolds. Malmesbury.
Go to Chipping on Norton.
Where in the hell was that? Like I didn't even chipping him right here.
Oh, that's one of them. There's like Chipping on Norton or something like that. We went to it. If you type it in, it'll probably pop it up.
I think you're talking about the slaughters, aren't you? Like upper and lower slaughter.
Maybe. I think there's a place called Chipping on Norton.
I don't think there's such a thing. Like, I will type it in though. Chipping Norton. There it was.
Not on Norton. It's just Chipping Norton.
Okay, so where is
Yes, there it is.
This is way up there. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, this is actually near to that though. There's lower slaughter.
Burton on the water. That was the other one.
Yeah, so,
Borton on the water. We went there to that one.
Borton on the water. Let's go to
Borton.
Borton on the water. But I think this is still like Georgian era, I believe, if I'm right. So
whatever it is, that's exquisite. I like that.
And with that Cotswold stone, I mean, it is really nice looking. I mean, it's actually top notch. But if I had to say my favorite form of architecture from Europe, there are so many that from each country, because that's the thing that makes it really interesting, is that the British have multiple different eras of architecture from Britain alone, and then it's also regional as well. Like the Cotswold stone that gives all of their buildings that kind of distinctive yellowish white color. That's very exclusive to the Cotswolds area. You won't see that throughout the rest of Britain unless if they had the stone imported from the Cotswolds, and that usually was fairly expensive. So that was very few buildings that looked like that. Like for example, I think, if I'm remembering right, up near Woodstock in the middle of Britain, pretty much, if I can remember where that was. Let's see, where the hell was that? So here's Oxford, and then there's Kiddington. So, hell, actually, that wouldn't have been that far. Blenheim Palace. I'm trying to think of where Blenheim Palace was, Matthew, and I can't find it anywhere. Where the hell was it?
It was in Blenheim. If you just type in Blenheim, it'll pop it up.
Blenheim. But you know, I like doing the geography. You've got to be kidding me. It was right there. Like, we were literally looking at it. But it was almost in the Cotswolds, because this is the Cotswolds over here. So they didn't actually have to travel that far to bring Cotswold stone to Blenheim. But that's also why it has its distinctive yellowish color.
This is the back, like, patio area right here where our dad kicked that duck that walked underneath that table while we were trying to eat some food or outside right here or something. And the duck went, wah! And then everybody turned around like, oh dear, why'd you kick my duck? And it's like, it was an accident. It's like, now they're really protective over the animals over there, like the ducks and stuff. Like, they don't mess with their ducks. Like, they get upset.
I mean, and that duck went running off and went under a chair and started panting, man. It went...
Like, yeah, it did. It was traumatizing that.
Dude, that duck had a rough day that day. But beyond that, let's see. So going over to the Czech Republic, I'm actually going to have to say that classic Czech architecture is probably my favorite. Specifically, the architecture along, I think it's this one bridge. That tower right there, I find this architecture to be pretty cool. Classical Czech architecture. I think it's really neat looking, like with the red roofs, the white buildings, and not only that, the way that the roofs were structured, like on that bridge over there, or the end of that bridge over there, I think that's really cool. I just like it for some reason. I think it's neat. And also, this
I'm
guy
distracted by the dude wanting to throw down right here in the leathers.
dude, this guy is leathered up, man. Like many cows laid down their lives for this man to be in this leather right here.
It looks like he just jumped off a motorcycle or something.
Dude, this guy actually looks like he's like posing for the camera. I'm not gonna lie, he's like striking a pose for it. Is there anyone else? These people are staring down the cameraman. And is that? Nah, I don't know what the hell that is. But let's see here. This bridge is actually really empty, Matthew. Do you notice that? Like, there's no one on the bridge.
Yes, the bridge you don't walk down, apparently.
Man, you walk down this bridge, you never walk down another. Just because you can't settle for less once you've had the best. You know what I mean? But interesting. Also, here's a example of a Czech street, or at least a Prague street. This is like what Czech architecture minus the graffiti. Oh my God, there's a lot of it. Looks like. I think it's pretty cool. Me personally, I think it's pretty neat. Or High German architecture. That's also really cool too. Kind of similar because it's all part of the Holy Roman Empire. But nevertheless, I hope that answers that fairly well, just to have a little discussion about different kinds of architecture. And I see so many people talking about all kinds of stuff. German Czech architecture is Gothic. Well, really, there's Gothic of all types. I mean, there's French Gothic. One of the best examples of French Gothic architecture is actually Notre Dame itself. You know, of course, damaged from fire. But this is actually a form of French Gothic. And the British also have Gothic cathedrals as well. Let me see if I can go and find one. I think the best one I could find right off the top of my head is York Minster, which is also the largest cathedral in the United Kingdom. This is an example of, I believe, High Gothic English architecture right here. So really every single country in Western Europe had a form of Gothic architecture, but they also had different national flares for each. And then also that was broken down by the region, because the concept of a national form of architecture actually really didn't exist until about the 1700s, when it was kind of a proto-nationalist atmosphere and people started to gather around a national identity. Before that, people gathered around a regional identity. So while there was like a loose amalgamation of English High Gothic architecture, it was actually really broken down by the region beyond that. So you would have Midlands English High Gothic, and then you would have the Lowlands English High Gothic, you would have Welsh High Gothic, which was not English, but then the English kind of ran Wells at that time, so it really was a different form of English High Gothic. But beyond that, just really interesting stuff. Have no idea why I'm so into architecture tonight, but still, you know, just some fun stuff to talk about. Great stuff to talk about, you know. Matthew, don't you find it fun? I find it fun.
It's quite interesting indeed. And also another thing that's very interesting as well is we need to call off Just Chillin', who put in a $122 donation earlier on the fundraiser, and we didn't get the chance to call him off until now. So huge shout out to you, Just Chillin', for that. And also, by the way, huge shout out to our anonymous donors tonight. I think the anonymous donors are thrown in somewhere in the neighborhood of about $600 all on their own, and we don't know who those people are, but they do, and huge shout out to them as well for that. And also, by the way, we're up to $3,850 on the fundraiser. So we're $850 above goal, and that is a big success. A big success.
A great success.
Great success. He's from Kazakhstan, I think. But anyways, we're moving on to our next one here, which goes to O-Tubes. It says, I've seen on some news that French troops have entered Odessa. Is that true?
Not that I've heard. I don't believe that's true. That sounds a lot like the nuclear bombers are flying, everyone's going to die tonight kind of a thing. So, like, at least for now, I haven't heard of any French troops in Odessa. So whoever's saying that, I would start to question. Now, I'm not saying I've done the research on this, so take it with a grain of salt. But at the moment, that sounds a little outlandish, because if that had happened, we would be reporting that on this channel, because that would be massive, major news. And whenever massive, major news happens, we always make sure to share that with y'all, and I haven't heard anything about it. Matthew, have you heard anything about it?
Definitely have not heard that. As we're aware right now, the French troops are still, like, you know, rumored to be trying to go to Ukraine, but nothing concrete about it. This is pretty nice. What is this?
This is some place. It's called Restaurant Oblaka in Odessa.
Oblak?
oobleck. That's it, man. They got that oobleck out here. I was trying to get on the street because, we were talking about architecture. I was like, what kind is in Odessa? It's all right. I mean, it's like, it's not that bad. Yeah, I could live with this. I mean, this is not bad. But I still think Prague and some German towns have them beat. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that question. And while we move on to the next question, concerning so many people have been bringing up High German, I'm going to drop down in Würzburg, and we're just going to take a look around Würzburg and see what the architecture looks like here while we answer the next question. So, what do we got, Matthew?
So our next question goes to Jim V, who says, what happens if China or North Korea resupplies Russia?
If China or North Korea resupplies Russia, and the North Koreans currently already are resupplying Russia, nothing will really happen. We'll most likely increase sanctions on them, but in reality, it's not going to affect the North Koreans that much because they're already sanctioned into oblivion. And for others, like the Chinese, we probably would be a little bit scared to sanction them, so we'd probably have some strong worded comments, but beyond that, not much to say. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, because there really isn't much that we would do if the Chinese started supporting, because that would end up creating a trade war, which would end up being devastating. Well, not devastating, but it end up hurting both economies, and usually no one wants the good times to end, even if it's for a good cause. So that's most likely the way it would work. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And Matthew, something I really started to realize once I started dropping down in random towns is that traditional German buildings rarely ever exist, because most of them were bombed in World War II and then rebuilt afterwards.
They've all still got that kind of like German street style, though. Like if you go up the streets, they're always like curving and they're always like increasing in height, like the streets are, and they're really narrow. But yeah, the homes and stuff aren't exactly what you call classic, I don't think.
Yeah. Oh, is that a brewery?
It's a
Hauptstrasse.
Hauptstrasse.
What does that mean, Matthew? They got the East German commie symbol on their building. What does it mean? Like, what does this mean?
A Schreinerei. I don't know. It could be like a winery or something. I'm not really sure.
We have to figure that one out. It was this building, wasn't it? It's not listed as
Strasse. Strasse means street, I think.
Hauptstrasse.
Something street.
What is this? I don't know. But that's pretty over there. That's nice. I like that.
It's nice.
Well, maybe one day we can go to Germany. Who knows?
Germany.
Germany. Wait a minute. Is this a lock? Oh my lord, it's a lock. Is that cool or what? That is actually really cool. It's a... Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. This is in the Ruhr, isn't it? No, it's not. I don't know why they have that there then. Does anyone know a good German town where we could look at High German architecture? Because I have no idea where we would look. Maybe Bad Orb?
Let's see. I see some people saying Schreinery is a cabinet maker, so they're in woodwork. So not a winery, it's woodwork.
Oh, wait a minute, we found it.
Oh, look.
Look, right there, right down there.
It's beer.
Killersteiner. I like that.
What's that famous German beer? It's called what's that beer they have on the big day that they have there? What's that big day called?
Oktoberfest? You mean it's like a week?
Yeah, Oktoberfest. It's like some kind of beer they've got. Like hell, I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, man, you didn't even say hell. You went yeah, like a ninja or something. He said yeah. I don't even have the name of it. But interesting. There are some like traditional-ish looking German buildings. I don't think they're entirely traditional though. They look like they were made to look traditional, but not necessarily traditional. But I mean, not bad. What the hell is that? The noodle? I'm gonna call that the noodle, dude.
Man, it's a worm,
bro. That's Putin when he's not in his human form. He's the worm. But beyond that, I don't know. Like we can't find any High German architecture.
Blitzmark liquor. That's what it is. That's the word I was trying to think of. I just thought about that. I saw someone saying Warsteiner or something like that. I've heard of that, but I was thinking about the other one.
Terry Butterfield said Aachen, Germany. What a joke. That's funny because Aachen got obliterated in World War II. So I would doubt that they, I might be wrong, but I doubt that they have traditional German architecture in Aachen. But let's check it out. Let's see if they do. Oh yeah, all modern, because this thing was obliterated. I mean, it really was. This was the Stalin of the Western, well, this was the Stalingrad of the Western Front. So nothing traditional exists in Aachen for the most part, from what I know. Let's see. Someone said Bamberg. Um, hmm. Someone else said something that's something that is anatomy wise. Let's see here. Warsteiner.
That's
No,
beer.
yeah, that's beer. I was like, that ain't a city. I was like, that's not a city. That's a beer.
Where's that place in Germany? They have the model heaven place. The little place that has like all the models in it and stuff. Is that Hamburg?
Miniature Wonderland.
Yeah, miniature Wonderland. That's what I want to see. Like, let's go look at that. Where is it?
Man, they got that Rathaus. My boy. They got
Rathaus.
the Rathaus. Let's go look at it. Dang, dude. That's one hell of a Rathaus.
Rats.
We gotta get rid of the rats. Man. Dude, look at that. It says, let's see. I don't know what that says, man. Do you know what that says? I don't know what it says.
That's not German, I don't think. Or
It
is
looks
it
like
German?
Latin to me.
Yeah, I think it is Latin.
I have no idea what that would say. Let's see here. Oh, and all the buildings are brand new because I believe Hamburg was bombed out in the war as well. But this building got restored, I believe, so it's almost in original condition. Don't you hate that about World War II Germany, is that like the whole entire thing got bombed, so there's really not a lot of historical heritage sites left because they've been obliterated. But, man.
Where's that miniature Wonderland, though? I'm trying to see it.
Let's see. Miniature
There it is,
Wonderland.
first thing at the top.
Damn, it was right there.
Oh, it's right there.
Man, look at
Oh,
this.
man, 90,000 reviews, man. That's the most reviews I've seen on anything.
Man, it's crazy though. It's like legit insane, like what they've done with this place, and it just keeps growing.
Only the Germans could pull something like this off, like with this level of detail and perfection. Only they could pull it off.
I mean, it's truly impressive. Look, they even have a little Venice. I mean, that's neat. It's just cool, like what they do with this place. Really cool. Y'all can go.
I remember, I think it was James May that went to this place on like some documentary or something like that, and I remember watching it when we were really young, and this was like so amazing to me. I was like wanting to go there so bad.
Yeah, remember he was trying to make the longest model train railroad thing, and so he went here to Miniature Wonderland to figure out how they ran their trains and the kind of problems that come with running them over literal miles of railroad track. And then that's when he set up that railroad track thing, Matthew, in Britain, and they, ran the train down and ended up failing. Like none of them made it to
Oh
the end.
yeah,
That was that
Yeah, I remember
documentary. Yeah, that was that one. And that's why he went here. But still, pretty cool. I didn't actually know that it was in the middle of the city, like right near the harbor. What the hell is this? Hidden in Hamburg. What the hell is hidden in Hamburg?
it's an escape room. Oh damn, what the hell kind of escape room is this?
Dude, they got that cap. They got that cap on, God. Well, let's see.
Man,
What
escape
is
room
this?
looked dark. I don't know if you want to get locked up in that one.
Arr, my boy, you'd be down in the blow. You'd be down in the hole getting that fine Peruvian blow.
Down here in the dungeon in the basement.
Man, I don't know about this boat. I don't know about it at all. Look at that thing. Man, that actually is kind of modern. That thing's from the 50s, maybe.
Yeah, it's like what is that even for? What kind of boat is that?
It was like, this would be like a mixed passenger freight vessel.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Man, you got that Das Abenteuer, what hat? Seht ihr bereit? Hidden games. The escape rooms. And something else. But still, pretty interesting. I mean, it's something, I suppose. What else is in this harbor, man? Because this is actually one hell of a place. Spices Gewürzmuseum. What is that, Matthew? Do you know what that is before we click on it?
Wait a minute,
Spices
what's
from
it say?
around the world. It's a spice
Yes.
museum.
Yeah, whatever's.
Man, the spice must flow. Achtung! Magivus. But, man, look at this. This is actually really neat. Germany's got something for museums, They really do. Like, they have a lot of them, from what I've heard, at least. But really cool. Interesting. They have a whole entire museum for spices. Museum of Docklands. Oh, dude, now that actually looks cool. That kind of industrialist look right there.
Man, it's giving me bad flashbacks looking at this.
What do you mean?
I don't know. It reminds me of some other places that Germany had way back in the day.
I don't even know what you're talking about. This looks like the 1860s industrialist Prussian or North German Federation era to me. It looks really cool. But miniature wonderlands in this thing, Matthew. You go into this thing.
Oh.
It's in there.
Yeah. Oh, no. Well, that's good.
Oh, duh. Man, you turned into the speaker of the house for a minute. You went, but there's got to be something else. Oh, look, a floating dry dock. They have the Blumenvoss Dock 11. Wow, Blumenvoss
That
is
looks like
still...
Russia's best ship.
It really does. Actually, like, no lie, it does. But Blumenvoss is still in business. That's interesting. They built things for the Germans in World War II. I thought they would have been out of business, but they're still in business apparently. Still pumping them out. You know what I mean? But let's see. What else? Oh, they have Beach Hamburg in the middle of the city. What's in here? What?
What is that? Like, wait a minute. Click through the pictures.
You can play volleyball in here and stuff?
That is crazy. It looked like the actual beach, like in that one photo.
Yeah, it did. Look at that. That's wild.
That's kind of nice. Kind of want to go there.
Man, that's crazy.
That's a good business idea. Like, we need to open one of those up here in Birmingham.
Yeah, man, why go to the beach when you can just go in this warehouse? Like, get on in here, pack in. But man, we got that Munzburg over here, and what else do we have? Oh, this looks like the traditional town because, Matthew, you notice how it's like almost like in a circle right here? That's probably where the old city wall used to be at one point before they started to grow outwards.
Probably so.
So
Does that say Schlump?
Schlump away.
See right over there up top? Look, see the Schlump up there at the top, over to the left, up there? Like, good. Bring the mouse
Oh,
up.
yeah, Schlump.
Schlump. Schlump.
So,
What in the
what kind of point are you in your life? Well, I'm in a little bit of a slump. That's funny. No, I'm literally living there. I'm literally living in a slump. Like this, I'm not even lying. Oh, look, they have a Subway in Hamburg. Cool.
Excuse me, sir. Why are you not finishing this painting? And why are you from Austria? I'm just in a little bit of a wee slump. It's like, was that all?
And so they called this whole area of the city Slump. And then after that, they opened King Kong Sports. Like, they're just because, you know. And then, value Hamburg, value. You would have a slump, wouldn't you, yeah? You would have a slump, yeah. And then we got some McFit. No way. No way, they have McFit.
That's like McDonald's opening up a fitness, like, park. I call it McFit.
Man, they got some McFit, literally. And they got that Einfach gut Essen. Essen or something like that. But I like it. I'm liking it. Wait a minute, what was this? Steinway's and Sons furniture, maybe. No, this is
pianos.
Oh, look, wow, dude, these are nice.
Yeah, Steinway and Sons like one of the top grand piano makers in the world, like top ones.
Sick. That is not Steinway and Sons.
Good.
This is
no,
like
hell
this
no.
This is like the Central African Republic or something like this. This isn't even Steinway and Sons. Like, what the hell is that picture doing there? But wow, that is cool. They are really nice looking too. Dude, this stream went and devolved into like just us wandering around and stuff. But let's see. What else is there inside of Hamburg? Because this is a really interesting place. Someone actually said go look at Vienna. We'll do that in a second, just for the hell of it. But Schennenfeld. And then we got Gross Flottbeck. And someone must have been really gross back in the day at Flottbeck, and they just went, ew, gross, and then the whole place got his name. Doesn't look bad, though, in the pictures. But anyways, let's go quickly to Vienna. We'll look at Vienna, and then we'll get back into the questions, because we're getting really distracted by this. But Vienna, let's go look at it. Did y'all know that the largest amount of wild hamsters in Europe that are in kind of like an uncontrolled population are actually in a graveyard in Vienna? I don't know which one it is, but it's one of the largest ones in Europe, and because so few people go there most times, the hamsters live undisturbed, and so there's actual wild hamsters in this graveyard. I don't know where it is, though. So sadly, oh wait, here it is. It's this one right here, the Friedhof Baumgarten. This is where all the hamsters live. Like a third of the wild hamsters left in Europe live in this cemetery right here.
So a third of the wild hamsters?
Yeah, a third of them. Like a literal third of them. There's like 10,000 of them living in this one cemetery.
Damn. That's a lot.
Yeah, and so it actually got listed, I believe, as like a natural preservation site because of the hamsters, because the hamsters are now endangered in Europe, as far as they are in the wild. I don't know why, but the hamsters are really stupid, so that's probably why. But beyond that, let's go look, because this would be traditional German architecture for the most part. Let's go look at the downtown area right here. Let's see what it was looking like here, yeah? This isn't really like medieval. This isn't like High German, but this is nice. I mean, it's not bad. Dude, they got a McDonald's 380 meters down the street. Then they got makeup forever, because makeup lasts forever. And then they got health. And then they got Rocha Boys. They got Rocha Boys. And then they got that in-socket druk tinte and toner discount. Let's see. They got that.
Would you like some fun?
Man, what do they have down here? They got that Kupitz, or something like that. And then you got the Concordia plots. Nice. And then what do you have down here at the very end of the street? What is down here? A nice little restaurant. You got that Das Wiener Restaurant. Ja, Leopold. But let's see here.
Oh man, Das Wiener. Oh man.
Oh man, I'm be cooking up them hot dogs, my boy. We're so back in Vienna on that Einbahn. Oh yeah, we be on that Molkestrasse. Oh yeah, Harten Kruger. Oh yeah. Wait, what the hell? I thought these were real people for a second, dude. I was like, what
that's
the hell?
some creepy dolls in the window.
What is in that store? Like, hang on. Dang it. Is it here? Is it here? This is where Leopold is, but we can't get to the freaking, like, place that was on that side. Like, we can't. Dang it. I was wanting to see what it was, because it looked like they did, like, period clothes or something like that. But anyways, enough of this. Enough is this rambling and talking, because that's all we do is the talking, it's the talking. But beyond that, it is time for us to get on back into the questions, yeah? Because we've looked at Vienna, we've looked at the Hamburg, we've looked at a whole bunch of smaller German towns, looking at the architecture, and I think we've had enough of this, and people want the questions answered. And so, Matthew, what do we have?
All right, and this next one here is going to go to a Rad Doctor, who says, have you heard of the Champ missile that emits microwave to prevent Iran from launching weapons? And we did. We went over that last night a little bit, and we assumed it was an EMP. And it sounds like this is also emitting microwaves, so it might be the same weapon. But Enforcer, what say you?
Yes, we have heard about it, and Matthew is right. We actually talked about that very weapon last night. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
The next one goes to Dan G, who says, do you believe the Patriot missile system can be deployed effectively inside of Ukraine to stave off hypersonic attacks from Russia?
Certainly. We have seen in the past that the Patriot missile has had a fairly easy time intercepting Kinzels, and we do know that they most likely will be able to intercept the other hypersonics, like the Zircon, that the Russians have as well, if given enough of them. And so I would say, yes, the Patriot does pose a good challenger to the Russian hypersonic missile. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best we can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Defiant Lugnut, who said, will there be any chance of the new PRSM missiles being field tested in Ukraine?
There is a chance of them being field tested in Ukraine. They most likely will be, if anything. But they will go through some testing in the background, because a lot of people always think like it's the movies where they're like, haha, evil scientist has made killer weapon. The first time they use it is on the enemy or something like that. And it doesn't work like that in real life. They usually test it back in a training field or a testing ground. And then once it finally is proven to actually work through and through, then they use it for the first time somewhere. And they probably would be in Ukraine, I would believe. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to JC the Music Man, who says, do you think Russia would declare all of their weapons of war as important historical relics if the world complained about destroying or about not destroying historical artifacts?
Yes, I think they would, because the Russians really do have nothing but a large amount of antiquated museum pieces at this point that they're using on the battlefields of Ukraine. Very few of them are modern-day main battle tanks or even upgraded to a modern standard, like the T-90Ms, the T-80BVMs, the T-72B3s, and vehicles like that. There are very few of them left at this point. Most of them are T-62s, T-55s, and other forms of vehicles like that, while my esophagus implodes. I don't know why it does that, man. Like, Man, I'll be like trying to talk and breathe. I think that's what it is that I'm trying to talk so quickly after I breathe that my like esophagus literally just goes, all right, I give up, and then the air just goes down both pipes. So you hear, but beyond that, I would say, yeah, I don't know. I think that I think it would be museum pieces. I would believe they would be UNESCO World Heritage sites. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Jay Casey, who says, I'd like to know if Putler's convoy has ever crashed, considering their speed, and let's face it, Russians can't drive. LSA.
We have seen the bodyguard vehicles crash a couple of times, like where one of them brakes too hard and the other one slams into it. But to be quite honest, that even happens sometimes in the president's motorcade over the past decade, where Secret Service vehicles end up running into each other here and there because one of them slams on the brakes a little too hard. So it's not out of the question for that to happen, even at slower speeds. So yes, the Russians have had that happen a couple of times, and it has been caught on film. And so with that, I hope
Have you seen the U.S. nuclear transports getting rear-ended by the Bearcat?
Yes, I have. I've seen that. That was hilarious.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. It happened right in front of him, and the guy was getting heckled by a police officer that was trying to film it. He was like, "Man, leave me alone. I'm just filming. It's public." And then he said, "Oh my God, they rear into the nuke!" It's like the big Bearcat like smashing into the back of the nuclear trailer. It's crazy.
Man, you know what's crazy to me even is that a cop, no, like a cop would come up to someone filming on a public sidewalk and tell them they can't film. It's like then move the nuke away from a nuclear. Well, move the nuclear weapon or the nuke away from a sidewalk. Fly it somewhere. It's like don't move it down the street. That kind of stuff is crazy because something.
Yeah, the stupidity of it is they'll sit there and they'll heckle the guy for filming the nuclear truck going down the road, but then there will literally be somebody down the street that's actually like nefarious, and they'll let them go. Like, don't do nothing about them, but the guy filming, he's got to get heckled.
Yeah, it's so stupid. I mean. And in the way, and some people are going to be sitting there and trying to make some political assumption off of that. You have a right to film in public places. Like, you have a right to film anything that can be seen from a public sidewalk or a public roadway. That is a constitutional right that you have. There's no political discussion to be had about it. It's a literal right you have. And so when police come up and they harass you about that kind of stuff, it's like, what are you, crazy? It's like, do you not even know the law? Like, are you that ignorant? Should you even have that job? That's something that always bugs me a little bit because we've run into that in the past before, doing some things for this channel, is how cops act like just because they don't like something, they can just come up with a law on the spot, like a kid at the playground and be like, hey, you can't film here. It's like, yeah, the hell we can. It's like, it's stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well, that whole side tangent. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Miguel Morales, who says, what will Ukraine look like in about 10 years or so from now?
Ukraine will probably look like a fairly successful economy, most likely due to a massive amount of investments that are being put into it by Western investment groups. So I would have to say that it probably will look like a fairly successful economy, a lot like Poland, but they won't get to the level that Poland's at. They'll probably still be a smaller economy than Poland, but they'll still be a growing economy. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Mac, who says, what do you think about Erdogan meeting with leaders of Hamas and encouraging them to attack Israel?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. It's stupid. It's anti-Western. But as part of Turkey trying to do its Turkey things, but at some point we got to tell Turkey, listen, Turkey doing Turkey things or not, some of the stuff you're doing is absolutely stupid, and we can't stand with that. And that's one of those things that I would have to put my foot down with the Turks and say, hey, listen, you can't be doing crap like that. That's ridiculous. It's truly Turkey things. It would take a very deep analysis to go into why they're doing that and why they're talking to them. And you would actually have to go over the history of the past 100 years to even get up to explaining why that's happening today. It's that convoluted of an answer. But the best way I can describe it is they're doing their Turkey things as usual, but that one really is stupid. And if I was the president of the United States, I would probably have to end up getting into discussion with Erdogan and say, y'all are going to have to roll back off of doing that crap, or else you're going to start pissing us off, and we're going to start canceling more weapons contracts that we still haven't fulfilled with y'all yet. That would be something I would most likely threaten over that, because it's threatening regional security for their short-term sphere of influence gains, which for their own minor sphere of influence, completely compromising the security of the greater sphere of influence that they are a part of. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Philip Fix's LSA, who says, do you think that F-16s have been held back all this time until funding for armaments could be secured?
No, I don't think so, because all of these F-16s are actually not being provided by the United States. I believe they're being provided by Denmark and the Netherlands. And so they haven't really had to wait for U.S. funding. It's more so of them having to wait for Ukrainian pilots to pass training, because we have heard over the past that the reason why it keeps being pushed back is because Ukrainian pilots are failing training. And so they have to retrain them again and again and again until they eventually pass the training. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, at least from what I've heard and understand at the moment about the situation. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to DL Hemingway, who says, I wonder if Ukraine can put off a drone something or Pearl Harbor on the remaining Black Sea fleet.
You could probably pull a Pearl Harbor with a whole bunch of drones at Sevastopol. They would be talking about Sevastopol from here to now at that point. But the thing is that a lot of the combat fleet has actually ended up moving to Novorossiysk. For example, all of the Kilo-class submarines are now at Rostov-on-Don, along with a lot of other combat vessels as well. So it would probably be pretty tough to end up trying to get any real damage caused to the Russian Navy at this point by a large drone attack on Sevastopol, but it's not out of the question. It's entirely possible. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and thank you so much once again for throwing in a good question. And also, a huge shout out to Cliff H, who threw in a 50 to the fundraiser, getting us up to getting us up to a nice around $3,935. Incredibly close to $4,000. Also, Matthew, here's what you do to museum ships, right? Like the Mikhail Kutuzov. If the Russians wanted the Kommuna to be treated like a museum ship, they should have done it like they did the Mikhail Kutuzov right here, putting it up as a museum ship that appears to not be in that great shape. Look at all that rust. Tetanus is calling, and they want their rigor mortis back.
That's terrible. That's it was probably in that shape when it was actually serving too.
Probably so, dude. Actually, jeez. Even compared to World War II vessels in the U.S. Navy, this is looking rough. Goodness. I mean, this looks rough compared to the USS Alabama, and they don't even... Oh, my God. Dude, look at the metal on this thing.
Is it made out of asbestos?
Dude, this thing is made out of that textured steel. Like, when you touch it, you can feel the tetanus going into your veins. Like, wow, this thing is really bad off. Like, look at the wooden planks and stuff. They don't maintain this thing at all. Like, this... Oh, my God. Wow, it's just literally rusting over. It's like the... It's really like the SS United States out here. In comparison. In comparison. I'll just quickly take y'all over here. Matthew knows where we're going. You know where we're heading.
Mobile,
Alabama. To the USS Alabama. Here's the USS Alabama.
There it is.
For comparison, this is what the deck looks like. It's got a little bit of rust, but it ain't that bad. It ain't that bad. We also have a submarine down here, the USS Drum, which is a Gato-class submarine. But let's see here. Oh, look!
Oh, damn.
Man, pretty cool.
That's a zero.
Yeah, it actually is. It's I think it was, at least. Nah, I think it's a mock-up of Zero or something like that. But yeah, pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty neat stuff. They have reenacting events down there. Pretty cool. I would know because I almost went to a few of them. But anyways, let's see. I'm trying to get y'all some pictures of the interior of the battleship, which for some reason no one wants to give. Come on, give it.
Yeah, I don't think it was allowed. I don't think you could take pictures inside of it.
Well, they're going to get some pictures inside of this battleship, dagnabbit, because I got to have some for the show. Go in there and take pictures, dagnabbit. They had to have been able to take pictures inside the ship, because I remember we were taking pictures all up inside that thing like 10 years ago. Like, we took an endless amount of them. Like, look, someone took a picture up here. Like, so you got to be able to take pictures inside of the ship. You gots to. But let's see here. Barry Baldernath said, that's so... let's see here. Hang on. LOL. Some people are talking about That little reenacting thing. It's pretty cool. I almost got the ability to do that one time, but we would have been on the submarine instead of the battleship. But that still would have been really cool. But now that time's passed because I've been so busy for the past 2 years, I haven't been able to do reenacting events once. What?
Wait a minute, they pulled the vets out. They pulled out the vets. Let's see that.
The pull out the
Let's see that
vets.
picture. The Corvettes, the cars.
Oh, right here. Oh, dang!
Look at that. They pulled out all the vets, the new ones, the old ones, all of them. That's pretty cool.
Man, that is cool, man. I didn't know what the hell you meant by vets. I was like, what? They pulled out the veterans? I was like, maybe. I was like, I don't know. Man, there was no pictures at all of the inside of this ship. That is bullshit. I'm telling you that right now. But so anyways, I guess I'm gonna have to give up on that venture because we're not gonna find the pictures. But anyways, y'all can see this is a lot better maintained than the Mikhail Kutuzov, 100%. And we don't even put a lot of money into this thing, honestly. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Mad Machine, who says, how long can Russia's fuel reserves keep the Orc military moving, let alone having fuel available for civilian use?
We believe that the total fuel reserves of the Russian Federation, as well as the Kazakhstani infusion that they're buying, will most likely be able to last them up until around the latter end of this year, towards mid to late fall, and then they'll start to probably run into massive fuel shortages throughout the Russian Federation. So they will not be able to last that long in reality with the current fuel consumption that they have, from what we understand at least. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Ray T, who says, do you think that the reason for the higher Russian losses today are due to Ukraine releasing more ammunition now that the aid package was passed?
It's possible. It may also be possible that these higher casualties are being caused because there are Russian assaults that are starting to happen in larger numbers around the front lines, particularly in the Bakhmut area, the Kommuna forest region, and also near the Novomykhailivka down here in the south, which I might be able to find. Where the hell did Novomykhailivka go? Like, it was here, I swear. Aw, man. It's, like, right here. There it is. And so there are larger assaults that are happening today from what we heard, and that may be increasing the casualties. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who was the lucky last person through in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Phantom Airsoft, who says, do you think that Ukraine will try and take back Crimea with force, or focus on the other areas of Ukraine and try to either get Crimea back in negotiations, or just let Russia have it?
I think they're most likely going to be trying to get Crimea back because there's probably a lot of American pressure behind the scenes for them to work on regaining Crimea. So I would have to say they most likely will end up taking it either through negotiations, peace negotiations, or through armed force because it's such a strategically important part of Ukraine that it's really the only part they can't give up by the end of this war. Like, the cutting away the humanitarian side and emotional side of things really quickly, Ukraine could give up the Donbass, but Ukraine can't give up Crimea. That's really the way that this is going to work. Crimea is so important to the Ukrainian economy, and not only that, important to Western strategic interests, that the Russian Navy can no longer be able to base out of Crimea, and therefore that means that that Ukraine must have complete and total control over the entirety of the Crimean Peninsula. And so while they wouldn't really have to take back the Donbass, they certainly have to retake Crimea. That's a certainty. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolutely incredible stream. And not only that, we've been able to raise $3,935 for Revive Soldiers of Ukraine, which is absolutely incredible, absolutely unbelievable. And not only that, it helps out Revive Soldiers of Ukraine in helping to save Ukrainian lives of soldiers who have already given so much and are going to get so much in return thanks to the Lee Spring Army. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, I will see you all on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours, well, actually the next 48 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And good night, folks. Thank you all once again for another great stream. And once again, now $3,935 raised on the fundraiser. A tremendous amount of money for a great cause in Ukraine. And with that, we'll see you all on Tuesday night. Once again, Slava Ukraine, Hiram Slava, and good night and get some rest. pissed.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.